Good morning, children. Then let's continue the lesson Deep Water by William Douglas. So first, some questions. So my first question is, when did the author decide to learn swimming? The author decided to learn swimming when he was about 10 or 11 years old. Now second question. What options were available? The author had two options. Either he could go to learn for swimming in the Yakima River, or he could go to learn swimming at the YMCA swimming pool. Question number 3. Which factors led him in favor of the YMCA pool? YMCA pool was not treacherous. In fact, at the shallow end, it was hardly 2 or 3 feet deep, and at the other end, it was 9 feet deep. So, he chose to learn swimming in YMCA pool. Question number 4. Describe the boy who was responsible for the author's misadventure. The boy who was responsible for the author's misadventure was a Bruce. He was very large, a strong and heavy boy. He had thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen. Now, come to the text. It seemed a long way down. Those 9 feet were more like 90, and before I touched bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. Although the distance was only 9 feet. We have already read that at the shallow end, it was hardly 2 or 3 feet deep, and at the other end, it was 9 feet. So hardly it was 9 feet deep. But while going down, he felt as if it was 90 feet. Why so? Because it happens generally. When we are in problem, in difficulties, then even 5 minutes seem to be like 5 hours, like 5 days. So, as he had breathing problem, as he was not able to breathe, he was full of difficulties. So, the 9 feet seemed to him like 90 feet. And before I touched bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. And before his legs could touch the bottom, his lungs seemed to come out, seemed to burst. He felt as if his lungs would burst, would be broken into pieces. But when my feet hit bottom, I summoned all my strength and made what I thought was a great spring upwards. But as soon as his feet touched the bottom, then according to his plan, according to his strategy, he summoned all his strength. He gathered all his strength, and with his full strength, he tried to spring upwards. I imagined I would bob to the surface like a cork. Instead, I came up slowly. He had imagined that like a cork. Cork is very light. What is cork here? Cork which is used to close the bottle. So he had thought, he had imagined that like a cork, he would bob. Bob means he would come up very fast. But he was coming up very slowly. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water that had a dirty yellow tinge to it. He opened his eyes and found that he was surrounded by was water. Everywhere there was water. Nothing but water. And the yellowish color of water. Dirty yellowish color of water. Tinge, T-I-N-G, tinge is color. I grew panicky. He panicked. He was afraid. I reached up as if to grab a rope, and my hands clutched only at water. He reached up. He came to the surface of water finally. It seemed as if he was trying to grab the rope, catch the string. But as there was no rope, nothing, so instead of catching a rope, he was only catching water. I was suffocating. I tried to yell, but no sound came out. Then my eyes and nose came out of the water, but not my mouth. I was suffocating. He was feeling suffocated. He was feeling choked. He was unable to breathe. He couldn't speak even. He couldn't cry. He was trying to cry, but his voice was not coming out. Why? Because his mouth was under water. Only his nose and eyes were out of water. I flailed. Flail means, flail has two meanings. When it is noun, then flail means, flail is a farming tool, and flail is verb here. When flail is verb, then flail means beat, strike. I flailed at the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. He was striking the water. He was beating the water. He was thrashing the water. But all useless. He choked. He felt suffocated, as if his breath had stopped, and he swallowed. He gulped water. I tried to bring my legs up, but they hung as dead weights, paralyzed and rigid. He tried to bring his legs up, but his legs seemed to be lifeless, as if there was no life in his legs, no strength in his legs. His legs seemed to be like any dead stone, like any dead weight, hanging only in the air. I went down, expending my strength as one in a nightmare of fights and irresistible force. I went down means again he went down. This was his second time that his journey towards the bottom had started. First time when the bruiser had thrown him into water. Anyway, he had come upon the surface of water. But now, second time, his journey towards the bottom had started. I had started on the long journey back to the bottom of the pool. I struck at the water as I went down. When he was going down, then he was striking the water. He was striking against the water. He was beating the water. Expending my strength as one in a nightmare fights an irresistible force. Expending my strength. He was fighting with the water. He was beating the water. Expending all his strength. Gathering all his strength. But this all was in the same way useless as somebody fights with any irresistible force in his nightmare. Nightmare, children? Frightening dream. Sometimes we have horrible dream. We have dream of ghost. We dream that we are fighting with robbers. But what happens in our sleep? We fight, but our fight is in vain, useless. In the same way, he was fighting with water. He was striking water, gathering all his force. But was not able to come upon the surface of water. I had lost all my breath. My lungs ached. My head throbbed. I was getting dizzy. I had lost all my breath. He had no breath at all. Almost he had lost all his breath. He had stopped breathing almost. My lungs ached. His lungs were aching, paining. My head throbbed, and his head was throbbing fast, beating fast, palpitating. I was getting dizzy, means his mind was spinning, his mind was reeling. But I remember the strategy. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. I'd lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms and thrust with my legs. Then I would get to the edge of the pool and be safe. But in spite of all the difficulties, in spite of his body had lost his strength, his limbs had lost his strength, he didn't lose courage, he didn't forget his strategy, he still remembered his plan. What was his plan? His plan was that the moment his feet would touch the tiled bottom, with all his strength, he would try to spring upwards. And as soon as he would come upon the surface of water, he would lie flat. And then he would try to move his legs and hands to catch the edge of the pool. And in this way, he would save himself. So this was his strategy to save himself. And he had not forgotten his strategy. I went down endlessly. But the distance seemed too long. He was going down and down and down, and yet his feet didn't touch the bottom. I opened my eyes, nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. He opened his eyes. When he was going down, then before touching the bottom, once he opened his eyes, what did he find? Everywhere there was water, yellowish water, dirty water. In fact, the water was dark for him. Why? Because in darkness, we can't see anything. So, through water, he also couldn't see anything. And then, sheer, a stark terror seized me. Terror that knows no understanding. Terror that knows no control. Terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. And he was caught by a sheer. Sheer means mere. Only. And a stark. A stark means complete. He was caught by a complete terror. Complete horror. What kind of terror? Here the author has described the terror. What kind of terror? What was that terror? It was such a terror which had no understanding. Children, when we are greatly afraid, then out of fear, sometimes we feel like crying. Sometimes we feel like jumping, running away. So, the terror has no understanding, and by such a terror, he was caught. What kind of terror? The terror which had no control. Terror which was uncontrollable, which was irresistible. And such a terror which can be understood only by a person who has himself experienced such terror. Other people, other persons cannot understand the terror of others till and until they themselves have faced, have experienced such kind of terror. The author was caught, the author was gripped by such a terror, such a horror. I was shrieking underwater. I was paralyzed underwater, stiff, rigid with fear. In fact, he was crying underwater. It's not that he was not crying for help, he was crying. But no one was listening to him. His words were not coming out as his mouth was under water. And he felt as if he was paralyzed, as if he had no power in his body, no strength in his body. He felt rigid. He felt stiff, unbending, unmoving. Even the screams in my throat were frozen. It seemed that not only his body was frozen, but his screams, his cries, his shouts were also frozen. Why frozen? Because he wanted to cry, but he couldn't cry. Nobody was listening to his cries. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was still alive. P-O-U-N-D, pound, beat, throb, palpitate. He knew that he was alive by two things only. First, that his heart was still beating and his head was still beating. Means his mind was still working. So due to these two things, he felt that he was alive. Otherwise, all his limbs, all his other body parts had stopped working. And then in the midst of the terror came a touch of reason. I must remember to jump when I hit the bottom. At last I felt the tiles under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had. And then in the midst of the terror, but in spite of his terror, although he was in his terror, but a sense came to him. And what was that sense? The sense about his strategy, about his plan, that what he had to do when his feet would touch the bottom. At last I felt the ties under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had. And finally it happened. His toes touched the bottom of the water, touched the tiled bottom. And it seemed as if his toes were trying to grab the bottom. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had. And then with all his force, he tried to spring up. So that's all for today. Thank you.